Hi, welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well let's learn English together. And here we are, yes, we're back. Not from outer space, but from somewhere else. Somewhere closer to home. So, how are you all this afternoon? Is everything going well today? Did you get a good night's sleep? I hope so. And what about your morning? Was it a good morning? Did you wake up feeling refreshed? Did you make something nice for breakfast? Perhaps you cooked some eggs and bacon. And if you cooked eggs, then how did you cook them? Perhaps you had a boiled egg, a soft boiled egg, where you place an egg into boiling water. Water which is so hot that it's bubbling. And then, after a few minutes, I can never remember how long, but after a few minutes, you take the egg out of the boiling water, the water which is hotter than 100 degrees Celsius, and then you have to hold the egg under running cold water. So, we hold the egg under running water. We don't put the egg into a bowl of water, but we turn the cold tap on and, holding the egg on a spoon, for example, we run the water over the egg. We let the water pass over the egg. That way, for example, we do it so that we don't burn ourselves. Say, for example, that you're doing the ironing and you accidentally touch the iron. What happens? Well, you burn yourself, don't you? Your skin touches the hot, very hot iron and it burns your skin. It damages your skin with the heat. Okay, so when this happens, the best thing to do is to turn on the cold tap and let the cold water run over the burn. This takes away the pain and helps the skin heal. Okay, back to the boiled egg. So where were we? Oh yes, the egg is cooked. So we take the egg out of the boiling water and hold it under running cold water. After that, well, now comes the easy bit. We put the egg into an egg cup and then hit the top of the egg with a spoon to break the eggshell. Then we cup the egg on one side with the palm of our hand and cut the top of the egg off with a knife. We have to cup the egg with the palm of our hand to hold it in position. Otherwise, the egg would go flying across the room and break on the floor and make a mess of everything. So, we cut the top of the egg and look inside. If we did everything correctly, then the egg white, the albumin, the part of the egg with the protein, that part has set. It's changed from a liquid into a solid or a semi-solid state. When you bake a cake, for example, you mix the ingredients together and the ingredients are in a liquid state, aren't they? The cake mixture is a very thick liquid. It's a viscous liquid, but it's still a liquid. Now, what happens to the cake when we bake it? Yes, that's right. The cake sets. It changes from a liquid state to a semi-solid or solid state. And it's the same with the egg. When we put the egg into the boiling water, it was liquid. And now, if everything we did was successful, then now the egg white is solid or almost solid. And the egg yolk, the yellow bit, well, that bit is still liquid. All right. And then what? Well, then all we have to do is get some soldiers. You know that we need soldiers for boiled eggs, don't you? When kids in the UK have a boiled egg, they also normally have soldiers. A piece of toast cut into regular, thin slices. Pieces of toast that stand together and look like a platoon of soldiers. Like this. All right. Now, where are we? Oh yes, of course. We're here in the studio. And now that we've finished talking about your breakfast, now that we've stopped discussing one of the ways that you can enjoy eggs, it must be time for us to check out some more of the language we heard from the bench fields. Okay, so as I'm sure you all remember, last lesson we saw Alfredo, Doreen and John. They were inside the supermarket and they stopped at the fruit and vegetable section. Section. Do you know that word? Section is just a synonym for part. When we're talking about a section, then we're not talking about the whole thing. We're talking about part of a thing. Think of an orchestra, for example. An orchestra is made up of different sections. There's the string section, for example, which is probably the most important section. The string section is where we have the violins and the violas and the cellos and the double basses. Then we have the woodwind section, things like flutes, clarinets, oboes and bassoons. After that, we've got the brass section, the trumpets, trombones, French horns and tubas. Finally, there's the percussion section, the section where musicians hit things to make music, things like drums, timpani, triangles, gongs, xylophones, anything you can hit to make music, really. Okay, so those are the sections of an orchestra, but Alfredo and the kids aren't in an orchestra. They're in a supermarket, aren't they? Yes, and the supermarket has also got sections, different parts of the supermarket. Together, all of the different parts make up the supermarket. But if someone works in a supermarket, they work in a specific part, in a particular section. When I worked in a supermarket when I was a teenager, I worked in the section with alcohol. It was called the wine and spirits section. We all know what wine is, don't we? Yes! Wine is an alcoholic drink made from grapes. Okay. And what about spirits? Well, spirits is the word that the British used to describe strong distilled alcoholic drinks. Things like whiskey, brandy, gin, rum. These are all spirits. Pálinka is a Hungarian spirit, for example. There are lots of restaurants and bars where pálinka is translated into English as some sort of brandy, but I think that's just silly. Why translate the word pálinka? If someone doesn't know what it is, then they should try it. Tell them that pálinka is a strong, alcoholic Hungarian spirit and let them try it. When we go to Italy, the Italians don't try to translate grappa, do they? No. And if we go to Greece, then nobody tries to translate ouzo, do they? No. If we ask what schnapps is, then people answer schnapps. Nobody tries to translate the word. There's no point. Explain what it is. Yes. Tell people which fruit it was made from. Fine. But why try to translate something which can't be translated? Anyway, fruit. The fruit and vegetable section. That's where Alfredo and 2 of his kids were the last time that we saw them. Now, there's another thing we need to look at. The word vegetable. Okay, now look at the word and tell me how many syllables you think it has.
Hey, what was that you said? A syllable? A syllable? What's a syllable?
What do you mean, what's a syllable? Good God! Have you forgotten already? Okay. A syllable, for those of you who've forgotten, like Citizen Smith here, is a sound in a word. Different words have different numbers of syllables. My name, Gavin, has got 2 syllables, Ga and Vin. The short name I normally use, Gav, has only got 1 syllable. The word anti-disestablishmentarianism has got, blimey, 12 syllables. Okay, now forget anti-disestablishmentarianism for a moment and think about the section of the supermarket where we last saw Alfredo, John and Doreen. Okay, fruit. How many syllables? 1. Correct. And what about the next word? This one. Okay. So what do you think? When you look at that word, it looks like it's got, what, 4? Is that what you think? It looks like that word has got 4 syllables, doesn't it? Yes. It looks like that, but it doesn't have 4 syllables. That word has only got 3 syllables. When we pronounce the word, we squash the middle of the word together. We don't separate the parts of the word, we squash them together. So it's not vegetable. No, it's pronounced vegetable. Vegetable. So there are only 3 syllables in the word. Vegetable. Easy. So we never ask, which vegetables do you like? We always ask, which vegetables do you like? Okay, now, where were we? Oh yes, Alfredo, John and Doreen were in the fruit and vegetable section of the supermarket, weren't they? And they were putting apples into their trolley, weren't they? But there was a problem, wasn't there? Yes, of course. With the bench fields, or at least when Alfredo goes shopping with the kids, there are always problems. Anyway, what other language did we hear them using last time? Were there any new or difficult things that we need to think about? I don't think there were there? There was one phrase which I don't think we've seen before. Alfredo said that something was a slip of the tongue. Now, what do you think that might mean? Well, for a start, what's a tongue? A tongue is the muscle in your mouth that you use to speak. If you don't have a tongue, then you can't speak. Normally, you don't stick your tongue out. It's rude to stick your tongue out at people. But sometimes, like, for instance, when you go to see the doctor, say you've got a sore throat or something, then the doctor might ask you to stick your tongue out and say, ah, like this. In this case, it's not rude to stick your tongue up. The doctor wants you to move your tongue out of the way so that he or she can see into your throat. Okay, now let's think about the situation where Alfredo used the phrase. It was just after he'd called John the wrong name, wasn't it? And John wasn't happy about it. And that's when Alfredo said it was a slip of the tongue. Now, a slip is another word for a mistake. And here, this means that a slip of the tongue is something you said by mistake. Alfredo didn't mean, didn't intend, didn't plan, didn't aim to call John the wrong name. But, well, maybe he wasn't concentrating or something. So it was just a mistake. Alfredo was thinking about something else. Maybe he was thinking about Tim, and he just said Tim's name. My mum does this all the time. She calls me Gary. But I'm not Gary. Gary is my sister's husband. Gary is my brother-in-law. My mum also calls me Jack. But my name is Gav, not Jack. Jack is my nephew. He's my sister's and Gary's son. But when my mum isn't concentrating, she makes these mistakes. But it's not a problem. I know that it's just a slip of the tongue. A small, unimportant mistake that she makes when she's talking to me but thinking about someone else or something else. Oh, and blimey, we've reached the end of another lesson. Oh, crikey. Well, we didn't see the bench fields today, but don't worry. There's no point in crying over spilt milk, as we all know. We'll catch up with the bench fields tomorrow, don't you worry. As for the rest of the afternoon, well, you're free to do whatever you fancy. Have another coffee, take the dog for a walk, scratch the cat behind its ears, tickle the guinea pig, whatever you feel like. I'll see you all tomorrow. So until then, have fun, and have fun. Oh, and don't forget, www.m5tv.hu. See you later. Bye.